G'day, listeners. Another week has passed. You're listening to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. Welcome. I hope you've had a fantastic week, as we always have. My name is Jordan Spencer. Joining me is my good buddy BP. How are you, mate?
It's good to start with a laugh.
Good to start a week with a laugh, exactly. Nick Bice, how are you doing, bud?
G'day, man. The International Beer Tasting Tour has finally come to an end, and I'm back in the home state of SA for a week or so, which timed it in nicely for actually, which was an absolute fizzer of an AFL grand final, but it is school holidays, so I'm bound to get absolutely no work done over the next week. But then we've got another big weekend of sport in Australia next weekend.
Mate,
So, all in all, good to be home.
Well, we just saw, literally, as we're recording this, Wales and Aussie just played in the Rugby World Cup. And the Welsh won, but it will go down as the most controversial rugby umpiring call in the history of the game. A game-changing call. It will be talked about for years. You wait.
Yes.
Vicey, do you know the rules to that game?
Just
not
smash
a chance,
it.
mate.
It used to be just smash into the bloke that's trying to tackle you, but that's not allowed anymore, apparently.
Like, one person pushing three people up five people's asses.
Yeah. You idiots.
I just cheer when all the others cheer.
That's it. Just when you get sophisticated and intelligent, then you can enjoy the game. Big hello to, we got some good mates doing a delivery down the East Coast, the Dark Horse team. I just wanted to say g'day to that clan, the Higgins clan, and Marty Pike going down the coast there. They're heading from my place down to Sydney, so heading south along the East Coast. And the only photo I've seen off the boat, the land was on the left side.
Oh, yeah. Going well so far.
Andy. I think they may have hooked up a nice fish, and they're just turning around to have a quick, they had to catch it, so that's what they were doing.
Something's going wrong. Oh dear.
For those who don't know, if you're doing a delivery in Australia and you're heading south, it's obviously keep Australia on the right hand side. That's how we navigate down here.
Also, a big hello to all the Canadians who've started to join us. We're getting a lot of Canucks, the Frostbacks, the Seal Bashers are joining us, which is great. So
yes.
A great bunch of people. So we'll expect some good interaction from them, especially as they
out and about.
Well, they're heading into their winter, so they probably haven't got anything else to do except listen to Bar Karate, which is good for them, really. Although, I'm guessing they do a lot of ice boating up there, and I figure none of us have ever done that. Have you ever done any of you blokes done ice boating? No.
Negative. Been to the snow once in my life, so
right.
To actually be in an ice boat, yeah, that's a different story.
So clearly
I've got to say, I've been to the snow once in my life too, and ended up as a lift operator. Spent 6 months there. Oh, very funny story, but a bit too long to go into right now.
Always, Spice. BP, you've always got one. I will say though, I think I can speak for all of us and say we'd be very interested to know more about ice boating. So if any of those Canucks just feel like sending us a note and tell us who we should speak to, we'd do that. I reckon that'd be interesting, yeah?
I reckon it would be good to see us up there having a go at it, having a crack at it. I reckon it could be a bit of a... Well, I don't know that it'll be a laugh. I think it'll be quite intense, to be honest. They'd get some pace on.
Yeah.
I'm shitting myself just talking about it.
Can't wait. Other news, number one episode these days. It's always been the... It was always the pilot episode's always been the number one, and Kyle Langford took the reins, but Chris Hosking's episode's skyrocketing at the moment. That technical speak, the Keely-Foily things, it struck a chord with the people, the punters.
And ourselves. The commoners, we'll call ourselves.
It's definitely t-shirt hat material, the Keely-Foily things.
Yeah, it's going on for sure. Not much happened this week in sailing. A pretty quiet week. Obviously, the Melgers were building up for their Worlds, Melgers 24s, and of course we had the final event in the TP52s. So we're pretty smart. Well, one of us is pretty smart, and we've organised one of the commentators from the TP52s to come on board. Now, guys, BP, Vicey, our special guest here bears no similarity to you two. She is a professional, hardworking, and talented. So she's a lot like me.
Yeah, right. Here we go.
No, we'd like to welcome to the show Genny Tulloch, the champion sailor, Genny, champion commentator, and clearly in an airport waiting lounge.
Oh, so Jenny, you're inappropriate most of the time when you got red hair. Is that the story?
Do I just instantly get to be part of the Ginga challenge? I mean, I technically I have some really good ideas for you guys. I don't know if we wanted to start right out on how to fundraise there, but
beautiful.
No, that's yeah. Well, I just maybe we had some dark and stormies last night in the excess blowout final party of the 52s, and I was thinking ginger beer tax. I mean, it's got the name written in it, right? It's an obvious one, just like the haircut tax that you're trying to say should go for every time a ginger gets a haircut around the world. But I love it. I think it's a good one.
I'd like to take this time just to quickly introduce myself. I'm BP, so we haven't actually met before, so this could be a very interesting episode as we discuss our business future. I did a little bit of a look on what you're up to, and I think you definitely are smarter than us, so that's good.
Okay, but I think it was hardworking and talented were the other things that Jordan Spencer was claiming just there. So, no, fair game. I'm excited, BP. Although I think realistically, it's the World Yacht Rally. Listening to you guys' podcast last week, that sounds really fun to get involved with in the future. That is spectacular, especially the route, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. Wow, yeah. No, the World Yacht Rally is that's a big one for us. Obviously, we're very invested in that. Going around the world for 2.5 years and just having the best time of your life without any stress. It's a perfect run. Perfect run.
Let me think what else
needs a commentator.
So we should just position people who don't know who Genny Tulloch is. You're a US sailor. You're a former, College Sailor of the Year in the youth, former US match racing champion. You had a go at the Olympics, got very close to the Olympics. What else? You and I have worked together at the World Sailing Games where you were just amazing as the on-water commentator. And if you've been watching the TP52 Super Series, you'll hear your dulcet tones as you provide some expert commentary. Also worked on the America's Cup. So you're pretty much master of everything in our sport. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think you forgot the Volvo there. So I worked on the Volvo, not the last race, but the race before, probably because I've done a couple of 2 years of offshore racing as well, which kind of got its start in the Morning Light program back in the day with Roy Disney and has continued on with Charlie and Mark's campaign. But yeah, I've done a little bit of all of it, whatever kind of boat there is out there, from Opties to Morning Light was a 52 itself to skiffs with a really quick campaign towards Rio after the last Volvo, and then of course, the match racing. I think I've got 5 U.S. titles and was 5th in the world, but we had 3 really good teams going towards the London 2012 games, and we lost the trials to Anna Tunnicliffe, who went into those Olympics as the gold medal favorite and then just didn't quite come away with a medal. So, and then I've done tons of big boat racing, Far 40s, Mulgus 32s, Mulgus 24s, Mulgus 20s even. Harry Mulgus was chopping down the mast out of our house in San Francisco when they were first doing the prototypes of the boat, and every day we'd go out and we would just think, this is pretty overpowered, and we'd just come in and chop another foot off again. So
wow.
Been in some cool spots at cool times, and commentating on the last 3 cups, from the 2010 Dogzilla match to then inside with ACEA in the last 2 events, on the water, running our VVIP program in Bermuda, and then doing the kind of social media commentary and shows before and after, and the daily show for the 2014-15 Volvo, which is cool. You get to call the boats and be the first with the insider knowledge there. And it's been a really neat, fun career, but I also then just went and did an MBA recently and tried to put my business hat on now a little bit more. Keeping the 52s on the side, but have a full-time gig in London at the moment as well.
Geez, I was going to say, Jenny, anything else we should know about? Bloody, you might have the world's biggest closet with all the different jackets and different paraphernalia from each campaign.
That is too true. I was talking with some of the guys last night about their kids that are out there sailing and, the sort of Opti Europeans and Worlds events. And I went 2 years ago, we got hit really badly with the hurricane in the house I grew up in. And my mom was still living there at the time. And I went down and looked at all these T-shirts and thought about throwing them away. And it was just, you just can't. Like, I have an Aussie one from the Youth Worlds. I have a Korea one from Opti Europeans. It's just I think the nature of the sport is probably why we all love it. The people we meet around the world and we get to sail with or sail against. It's pretty spectacular.
That just reminded me of something very funny when you said talking about taking your clothes down to, give to lesser fortunate people or something like that. When we were with the AC in 207, we had this container load of Riva Challenge clothing, and it went off eventually after the cup ended, and it sort of, I don't know where it went, I've got to say, but I can tell you that I'd be sitting in the bar in Valencia or wherever it was, hanging out, and there was literally thousands of people walking around with these T-shirts.
Mate, seriously, you cannot blame it on giving the shirts away just because every drunk in Valencia had Perry written over the back of them.
Yes. Well, there you go.
All right,
Myself up for that one, didn't I?
So,
we digress.
We digress. So what you alluded to there, Jen, without actually publicising, was the fact that you've taken on the Chief Marketing Officer role for a company called BorrowaBoat, which we've been looking at a little bit, and we quite like the look of it. So I'll just...
You want in here too, do you?
No. Let's just emphasise they're not paying us a cent, right? This is just something, right? We're not getting any cash out of you guys. We're just here having a chat to friends. And it looks like a cool idea, so you're more than welcome to plug it. But so that's, obviously Jen has a rare talent, so BorrowaBoat's jumped onto her, and it's a cool new thing. So tell us about that. We might as well touch on that. We've given you the plug, so let's just roll into it.
Yeah, it is really cool. I think I've always had you guys I'm sure as well, I've always had friends who weren't in sailing and would ask, how can I get into it? Where can I go? And in the US, the answer isn't really very obvious. If you're not a member of a club and you don't have a boat yourself, I would be like, come sailing with me, or let's go fishing with my dad, or get you on the water somehow. But the solution, the sort of website or the like Airbnb or Amazon, if you're looking for something in that respect, it doesn't exist yet. And that's what BorrowaBoat is trying to do. It's trying to be, it is an online marketplace for boating, but it's trying to be everything from sort of stand-up paddleboards to super yachts. If you want to get out on the water, we have the ability and the wherewithal to get you there somehow. So it started mostly in boat charter rental, and that space is a little bit difficult with the actual charter companies because they're quite unflexible. They're like Saturday to Saturday weekly rentals, and sometimes people just want to go for 2 days or 3 days. And so the founder of the company went with trying to make it peer-to-peer and have that flexibility and affordability to get out boating. And then because it's free to list, a ton of charter companies listed anyway, and they're actually now being disrupted a little bit and changing their minds and going, we don't have to be so inflexible. If we have free space and it's maybe more last minute, we're happy to take some of these shorter bookings. So that was the core and is the core of BorrowaBoat. But recently we've launched the Plus line, which is in partnership with a super yacht company. So the first time a super yacht company's ever worked with an online marketplace in this way. They're usually a lot more secretive about their boats and their kind of their price ranges, which are can be astronomical, but they're pretty impressive to stare at on computer screen when I'm trying to do some posting about them. And then we've gone down to recently launch an experiences line, which is more literally for people brand new to boating. It's more curated package trips, so like Gen cruises or hour supping trips, or even weekly Northern Lights journeys on a sailboat or ski and sail adventures in Norway. And it's a really cool thing. I really hope it becomes what we dream it could be. Right now we're based in London, but we have 22,000 boats in like 70 countries. So it is definitely worth taking a look at. And I think we were talking, I saw Bicey last week in Southampton because we were the title sponsors of the Southampton Boat Show. But we were talking about maybe once the World Yacht Rally gets up and going and you guys are looking for spots to fill on some of the boats, if they need them, that would be a perfect way for us to put a plus experience on board, because it'd be probably more on the plus end of our experiences line, but it would be pretty spectacular, I think, and would be a good fit for us to be able to sell the dream of going around the world with. I mean, I can sell that dream pretty easily because I do want to retire just like Bicey does and just go on the World Yacht Rally myself.
Well, what did you say, Jenny? How many boats have you got on the books?
22,000.
Jesus.
Yeah, 70 countries. So it was originally peer-to-peer, like I said, but it's probably now about 75% charter companies. So it's fun. It's interesting because some people just want, that kind of tailored packaged. I want to make sure the boat's going to be fine. There's someone there to check me in and check me out. And and everything's absolutely pristine, and that's easier to do with a charter company. And other people are like, I want a boat that's got some personality and persona, like the person who only ever goes to Airbnb now instead of, say, a hotel. And for them, we can, sorry, loud airport talk, but for them, we can always guarantee a peer-to-peer charter somewhere. So, yeah, it's good. And that's not counting surfboards or subs yet, but we're trying to bring on all of those around the world as well if we can.
Yeah. And don't worry about the noise in the background, Jen. It doesn't bug us because we're always sailing.
Much.
Yeah. But, it is a perfect match for the World Yacht Rally. So, like that's how we had the conversation about this. So, yeah, very excited. It's pretty cool. I did actually have a look. I don't know if you blokes did, but I jumped on and tried to see if I could charter a boat in my neighbourhood, and nothing around where I am at the moment. I'd say it's pretty weak in Australia yet.
That was a question I was going to ask. Yeah. Don?
But
yeah, we're definitely needing to expand to the US, Australia, and South America. We need a ton more. So whoever's listening right now, it's free to list. Get your boats up there, help them pay for themselves. I think that's our next move. We're in the middle of kind of starting to raise our next funding round now, and we are looking at moving to particularly the US, and then next step after that would be going down under in Oz and New Zealand, because we would love to be there in time for the next America's Cup with tons of boats on board, and then have the ability for those owners, whoever they are, peer-to-peer or charter, to be able to list them and market for them through our platform instead. And I think it's going to be a hard task because it is still a small team, and especially in the US, there's already a competitor there, but they do more just day charters, and we've got really everything now. So Australia might be easier because there's a lot of boats there, a lot of people really interested in it, but we just need them to start to hear about us as well and list. And you have to do a couple things before you can list. You need to be able to actually have the proper insurance for a boat to be chartered and things like that. So it's not quite as easy as just uploading photos.
Right. And obviously with
I can say that I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I can see your mind ticking over there.
It's so true, BP. I can see the X going up by tomorrow.
Well, you blokes have gone and organised the World Yacht Rally. I've got to get involved somehow. How am I going to get my guitar on the
Sydney
boat?
Harbour Yacht Rally. There you go.
Yeah.
But I must say, as Jen
pro
alluded to, I saw her at the Southampton Boat Show, which was a bit of a catalyst also for this talk. And when I met with her and her team, with the CEO, like basically the whole team, it's a young, cool, dynamic team. And I just thought to myself, man, this is the next step. So it's bloody cool. And they've got it all there, and it's going to take the world by storm. I'm pretty sure of that.
You must have looked out of place with them then, Bossy.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's why we're talking about it. We like the idea. That was as simple as that. We think it's pretty cool. And if it gets more people into sailing, because I think that's at the gist of Barkarati, our podcast, it's about just making sailing fun for people and for us. So bringing more people into sailing is what we want. So good work.
Yeah, and I think all the commentary that I do and getting to cover the sport in all the coolest ways, we're helping people watch it. But that is the next step. Is like we're trying to inspire them with the America's Cup, with the ocean race, to then want to go and take part in it ourselves and themselves. And I think that's, even with the 52s, it's very different. It's not that public driven necessarily. It is broadcast online for many of the days of racing, but not the same way that SailGp is aiming for the kind of public to come out and support it. But we're always, when we're covering sailing, we're always trying to get people to kind of want to go and do it themselves. And I think that's the next step. I think worldwide, I think in general, the countries and the yacht clubs are getting better about trying to figure out ways to get youth into sailing in a bit more fun environment than just going racing all the time. I think that's really, I was speaking with Adam Bisho last week about something called the Flying Ant. Do you guys know this? I think it's in Sydney.
Yep.
But it sounds awesome. Like it's just kids going blasting on a cool little skiff with a Speedo and from yacht club to get ice cream at the next yacht club or something, instead of going around a race course and worrying about racing. And I think that really matters. I think probably I stuck with the sport because my dad never once said, go out there and win a race. He always said, make friends and have fun. That was the closing words to me as I left for a regatta. And I think that is kind of the important thing that we all need to keep in mind. And if we can broaden our ability to bring friends into the sport by just having more access to boats that are otherwise maybe just sitting there in harbors not being used or in marinas not being used. I think it's a cool thing. I think it's a good blend of my passions. I was thinking about leaving the sport of sailing altogether with the NBA, and I'm happy to have found something that kind of lets me keep doing some of the 52 stuff on the side, and I'll cover the Olympics next year as well. But also, lets me actually help spread the word of the sport.
Yeah, that actually leads me into my next question. Is there aspirations to actually get back to the professional competitive level, be it Olympics or get on one of the TPs, for example?
Don't you know? I was saying there's two guys who are leaving big roles this year. So Santiago Lange, who just won yesterday as tactician on board Azura. They won the season. They got second at the event, but won the series, and he's going to spend next year focusing on defending his gold in Tokyo, defending the gold from Rio. And God, what a legend that man is! What a
feel free to tell your story. Actually, I saw your Facebook post on Santi, and I've been lucky enough to sail with him also. But just give us a quick roundup of exactly how he got to where he is and what his next plan is.
Oh yeah, I mean he honestly is just such an inspiration. Like it hurts my heart to think about him. He's 58 now. He turned 58 this week, so 3 or 4 days ago. He was 53 when he was diagnosed with lung cancer, and for a man who's never smoked in his life, I can't even imagine the hurt that would have had. And he was in the middle of a NACR campaign towards the Rio Games, which is at least a South American Games. He's not Brazilian, he's Argentinian, but it's kind of a lot of love there he had towards those Olympics, and he didn't want to get his lung removed, which was the necessary task, and he put it off for a little while, and then ultimately they said that's the only thing he can do, and he did it 11 months before the Games. He had his surgery, and I had just hopped back into a 49er for the 2016 Olympics. Really last second, a skipper quit, and the crew called me. Actually, Maggie Shea, she's still sailing now for this next Games, but called me to come and sail in their boat, which was already in Argentina because the 49er Worlds were going to be in Argentina, and the Volvo had just ended, so it was fine to go and do that. But we got there, and I was trying to remember how to sail the 49er because I'd only done it about 3 months just before the Volvo, thinking I would maybe go towards the Rio Games. And Santi was, I don't even know how many days out of recovery, but he was rigging his boat every day, and it would take them an hour to rig it because it was just a slow process, and he wasn't moving that well and wasn't healed that well. And they'd go out and they would sail for like 5 minutes, and then the next day they added a minute, and they would sail for 6 or 7 minutes, and then the next day it was 9. And it was just to see that like it really does give me the chills, but to see that force in someone who at that time was so frail. I mean, you gave him a hug and you could feel kind of every bone as well, because he'd really just come out of surgery, and yet he was still trying to explain to us what the race course was like, because it was the local knowledge that he had, and we were clearly so last minute there. And I knew him because he'd been involved with the Artemis campaign, so I'd done some interviews with him back in San Francisco, probably 3 or 4 years before that. So I'd known him well from that respect, and he was just being a good friend, and he didn't even have a voice. He was so hoarse, still from having tubes down his throat for the surgery. And it was just to see this happen, and then to see I was there in Rio covering the Games for for Dennis Harvey's program. For basically we were doing the daily news and the highlights and the world feed essentially, to see him then win the gold medal in front of his 2 boys who were racing there in the 49er as well. It was just like I don't think there is a better story in sport. You can put it up there with kind of the comeback of the American team in Oracle and San Francisco, and yet that's not really a one person triumphing over everything. And here it was Santi and his teammate, obviously, but it was just it took such heart and such courage, and he's just a legend. He's just so spectacular, and I don't think it'll matter if he defends in Tokyo or not. It just is like the coolest story out there, and he's still managing to slot in with a new team here. He raced with them last season, and they had kind of a hard first 2 regattas and then got better. But this season they never won a single event, but they were second about 3 or 4 times, and it was enough to take the overall series win. And now he goes back to Olympic campaigning next year, and he's just such a wonderful human being as well. Like, he is the nicest man on land. He's probably as sharp competitor as everyone is out on the water, but the second he's on land, he's just a real sweetheart. So I think I couldn't say
I can
more,
actually
speak more highly
I can
of
actually
him.
back that up. Jenny, and say, because I actually was lucky enough to work with him for 2 years at Equipo Telefonica in the Volvo, and he was one of the guys that stood out as approachable, but also he was able to share his experience in such a way that made you feel very welcome to the team or to whatever activity you're involved in. So what you're saying is 100% true, and obviously for everyone involved in sailing, it was an emotional way that he won the gold, especially after what he'd been through. So yeah, good on you.
Hey, and jumping back into a NACRA 20 at 59 years old.
17.
Bloody hell.
Gives us all hope, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope.
Good old Santi. Hey, love you, mate. Love you.
All right, let's
Awesome.
let's
Yeah, well, I guess the way the way that started is there is an opening on board Azura, by the way.
That's just
guys.
going to
They
say.
need
That's
to
what.
Yeah, there you go.
next season. Yeah, I may or may not have told Guija I'm available. He told me he needs someone Latin. I understand there's a bit of fire on board that boat, so they need a fiery personality. But
I have to
and
say
then that was
sorry,
the other
Jen,
one.
but we're committed to the Ginga challenge. So just, if you do hear people looking and they are asking, we are committed. So I'm sorry, we're off the table.
Unavailable.
Bicey might be interested.
So,
Because the other spot that's going to go up for grabs is the Bernennesac, the helmsman role. So Shimei Fantella, the 49er world champion last year, and Arhus Jordan, when we watched him hop out of the 470 and into the 49er with his brother and then just crush the worlds there, which is pretty spectacular. He's been helming the Russian team, and he'll do the same. He'll go focus on his 49er campaign next year. So may have told them, I know how to sail. I know how to drive a 52.
there you go.
Someone.
Are they looking for a coach? I know a good coach.
Yeah.
Fair game. Yeah. I don't
Drives
actually know who coaches them. That
man.
is a great question. Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about the TP52 Super Series, because you're all over it. So Azura, as you said, has won. Sled won the last one, and they looked incredible that last series. Like, are they doing anything different? Where did all that speed come from?
I mean, looked incredible. They won 5 races in a row to finish out the regatta. They had yesterday, so it was 2-3 race days to finish the regatta, 6 races in a row, and they went 2-1-1, 1-1-1, and it was just unreal. I mean, it was like there was one point where we said, let's just forget about it.
At all. Yeah.
Well, I think Quantum did it once, but about 5 years ago, the fleet wasn't nearly of the level that it is now. So it doesn't compare. But they had, Jordan's right, they just had wheels. They could start conservatively. I mean, they were never in a bad spot on the start line, but they were never punched either. They weren't pushing the line. There were a couple boats that were over, and they were never even in a question mark of being over. And yet, kind of 2.5 minutes out, they'd be just a full boat length clear of the fleet and able to tack and cross and pick when they wanted. And it was a masterclass. I think I was asking a number of teams last night, what they thought it was, because the only obvious one is they skipped Cascais, which is the one real windy event aside from this. So they had maybe fresher, heavier sails than the rest of the fleet, for sure. For sure, I think EJ thinks that the Azura mainsail's blown out, and you could see at times the tip of the main, they were just losing it all the time when other teams weren't. But that's not it. I mean, that's maybe 8% or 10%, but these guys were just on fire. So it's somehow they got in the groove with Mr. Akura and with the trimming and maybe the flat water, and their boat design might be a little, boat or mast or sails might just have all come together in a nice package that works for Perdichova. But it was a really, really stunning display of speed, and I think of some decision making was quite good.
And let's face it, you look at the crew list, and it's a pretty shit hot crew list, I'll tell you.
It's pretty legendary. There's
much better than that.
Yeah, the number of Americans cut on board that boat.
Absolutely beautiful footage. It was absolutely beautiful footage of them. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, it came up today, so that looked incredible. So it was really, really nice to watch that as well.
Yeah, it was wet out there on the water. I can't lie. There were moments where I was like, "Oh, is that microphone going to make it through this wave?"
Wow.
But no, it was stunning. Yeah.
So you were commentating from on the water.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah.
Hard. Well done.
Is
that
where you coach from?
Yeah. From a coaching perspective, when you said Azura didn't win any of the regattas, but always was seconds. From a coaching perspective, that's what you want. No bad, and not taking any risk on board. So they've obviously, I'd say Santi, very smart that way. Very, very smart. So it's good to see. Who's going to be are there any new boats being built for the TPs next year? Are sled going to be unbeatable going into next year? What are we going to see with the TPs? Any secrets that you can give away?
I can't talk to the new boats being built. I haven't heard of any, but the big news is that they're going to Cape Town. So the first regatta is going to be February, March, 2 weeks apart. So I think that's also maybe why there aren't boats being built. There's just not really the time for it this time around.
Gee, I wonder why they're going to Cape Town.
Exactly. Well, they're excited. I mean, the cool thing is it's the owner decision making in that class, exactly. And they kind of go places that they want to go to. Yeah. And yeah, of course, with the support of Hasso Partner and the Phoenix program and Tina getting behind a Cape Town regatta, the owners were on board about it. Everyone's excited.
She's a mad fan of Cape Town. No doubt about that. She's so good.
You guys have any words of advice for them? Because the fleet hasn't raced there, but I know the Volvo's done some inshore racing there.
Yeah, with the wrong people to ask.
No, for sure, one of my greatest ever races was in Cape Town in the Volvo 70. It was 20 knots up the first work, 30 knots up the second, 40 up the third, and as we come across the finish line, only 50. So yeah that'd be quite handy on a TP, I reckon.
Yeah, take flat sails is the tips. The only thing about Cape Town, of course, if it comes over the mountain there, like Table Mountain, like you got 50 knots on. And then you got 0, like you can just roll into dead still water, but only have to go another 200 metres and somebody's in 50 knots. It's crazy.
No, it's good. That it will be one to watch. Make sure you're on the list for that one, Jen. That'll be awesome to be there for that.
So my memory of Cape Town was the Volvo back in the day with Telefonica, and actually our mate Santi Lange was driving the boat when they decided to go backwards to 3A up. And rip the bowsprit off and send the 2 tack lines down through the boat. Oh. They arrived in the port a few days later. Do you remember this, Spicy? Do you remember it?
Yep, certainly do.
Yep. Oh. So Telefonica Blue have arrived. They're all happy and everything's fine. And a couple of days later, I think Telefonica Black arrived and the boat was proverbiably stuffed.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you cut it in half.
So your memory of Cape Town was inside a boat?
inside a container making rope every rope on the boat. But it was a pretty wild wipeout. I think it was on it was actually live footage of them doing it. Well, was footage of them doing it back in the day. And I just remember seeing them wipe out. Santi Lange was steering. They wiped out, whatever happened. And next thing you know, you see the A3 backwind against the mast, and then you see the bowsprit fly past behind them. And then you see all the ropes going everywhere. She was wild. Wild wipeout.
So maybe you'll be driving next in Cape Town, Jen. Maybe.
Yeah, the Blue Boat for Nenesec.
There you go.
I'm just going to keep saying this. Al B. Morgan, if you guys are listening, the Blue Boat. I mean, the funny thing, so the boats, they didn't go out 2 of the days here. The Maestrale was too windy for kind of the fleet limits. And yet Santi was the one ashore being like, nobody broached yesterday. Why are we not racing today? Yeah. So I think it will be cool if Cape Town's as windy, especially they think the first regatta will be quite fresh. So it will be cool to see the fleet go out in that. And yeah, I think like you said, there's some huge holes under Table Mountain. I remember two Volvos ago where Montfray was well ahead of the SEA team, and SEA just snuck around them in better breeze when Montfray got stuck. After 7 hours of Montfray being ahead. Yeah, so it's gonna be cool to see.
There's a bit of Latin heat on that boat at that time, I'd say.
I think there were some crew changes after that, weren't there, by sea?
All right, so you're all over the keel boats, you're all over the offshore stuff, and obviously you're all over the Olympics. So we'll touch on the match racing in a bit, but you got any hot tips? Who's going to win the golds at the Olympics? That's what I'm intrigued in.
Well, that's a good one. And 2 things there. I think we'll talk about the offshore Olympic sailing in a second. But
she's in charge.
I was saying Morgan Rees. Okay, or let's just talk about it now. I think the offshore Olympic sailing, I mean, I struggled with the match racing versus skiff because I had been trialing the skiff in the US at the time that they were kind of looking at the 29er double X. And I was playing in it right after Morning Light, maybe right before. And then they went the way of match racing. And because I'd done team racing in college and some keelboat racing, I got stuck in with match racing. But I think I think it's hard when we see a new class go in, especially a class that we know then means a ton of money has to be laid out on the Olympic side. And yet it kind of makes it easier for people to come in and out the way that the match racers did. We don't own boats anymore. But I think realistically for the Olympics, the fact that it will be 24/7 and no other sport is 24/7 is going to be amazing for our sport. I mean, anyone around the world who tunes in when nothing else is going on will watch sailboat racing. They'll watch it in the way that we sometimes watch curling in the Olympics because you turn the TV on and there's curling, and you're like, what are those people brooming that little hockey puck for? Oh, that's interesting.
What is the go with that? Come on.
Yeah, literally, why are you watching that? But I think if you see two people offshore in the middle of the night or whatever, I think it is going to be really, really good for sailing. And I hope it is really good for sailing. I hope they're able to do with that broadcast what it could do for us, because I just think it'll be cool. And anyway, that's my quick 2 cents on offshore Olympic sailing. But back to Morgan Reeser last night, we were talking about the Matt Warren, Tom Burton, the early decision from Australia.
Yeah.
And he coaches he's an American, he's a medalist for us, but coaches the British team, and he's in on all their decision making. He can't share any of it, obviously. I wasn't asking about it necessarily, but about early medals and early calls. He said 27 or 28 of their 29 medals have been people who were decided early. And now I think there's probably two things to that. That if you're confident enough in deciding someone early, then they're probably good enough that they might medal anyway. So there's that half of it. But the second half, he really is like, you can just then get on with training for the Olympics and you don't have to worry about the trials anymore. And that whole next 9 months of stressing about your Olympic trials, your brain is actually just going, how do I win that Olympic medal? And that pressure of the trials is off you. And I think, I talked about our match racing campaign earlier, but I think probably the U.S. made a mistake by having our trials so late. It was May in Weymouth with August Olympics.
Yeah.
And for Anna's team, they should have won. They'd won the World Championships before the ISF Worlds. They won a number of the events. And going into the Olympic Games, they didn't really have that kind of that mental break that they should have, because we had our trials so late. So I thought that was really interesting insight, because I think
that's a good one.
We always wonder what's happening behind the doors, but yeah.
That's a good one. Well, we should name our 24 team now then.
Do it.
Well, the offshore team, Dicey and I, and you're the coach, Jordan, right?
There you go. Hey, just before we continue on this serious topic, the curling, Dicey and I, we're the like experts of curling now. We've learnt everything. Remember that conversation in Italy where we learnt about all the rocks and stuff, where they're made, and who was that?
So only a certain place in Scotland that make the rocks, and they all get shipped around, and they're only from the one particular village. Oh, we're cultural. Don't worry about us.
Yeah. We found out it all.
Was it in the bar that you were learning about that?
There might have been some alcohol involved.
You idiots.
But that's when all the good stuff comes out.
So what about you're US? You're from the US. You obviously spend your time in the UK now, but I'm not sure if you can say anything. Don't burn yourself. But what do you think about the late change of coaching? Is that a smart move for the US team?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, we lost two big people last week. So the chief operating officer, I think he was COO. Greg Fisher he's an incredible man. He is a great coach and a great organizer for some color sailing programs, for some other programs, and I think he was probably doing a really good job with the Olympic team. And then when he left very shortly thereafter, I don't know if it was within 3 days, but within a week, Malcolm Page left. And to lose Malcolm 1 year before our actual the Olympics, and he's been there, I think, now for 2 cycles, no one would have wanted that to go that way. I don't know any of the insider necessarily, but I think like every organization and organizing body of Olympic sailing, there's a lot of people and a lot of politics and a lot of decisions being made in places that aren't necessarily the athletes making the decisions. And I think if you're an athlete in that team, for sure you would want Malcolm to stick around through the Tokyo Games, and the fact that he's now left at this point it's going to leave the team in a lurch. And I think the hard part is the team's not really shining right now anyway, and maybe hasn't been for about 10 or 12 years. The American Olympic team of the 80s and 90s is no longer, and we're so far behind in terms of funding. I mean, I know personally that was a major distractor from our campaign constantly, was either not having the money or looking to fundraise for more money because we're just not supported like the Brits and the Aussies and the Kiwis, and that's hard to change. So without
it kind of astounds me. It kind of astounds me that there is no funding there. I cannot get my head around it. I mean, Australia obviously we pride ourselves on pride ourselves on trying to achieve that goal, and we put a lot of people who are invested into it. It really astounds me that America aren't, or the US aren't. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think in general, I think we are such a big country with so many resources, and so many people do sail, but the average population doesn't pay any attention to it. Even the San Francisco America's Cup, the cup was going for about 10 days before the city of San Francisco even was really aware of it. It was like once they started making a comeback, the American team, then people were more aware of it, and the taxi drivers were talking about it. But the other three countries I just mentioned happen to all be islands, and that it's in the blood to care about sailing, whether or not you participate in it yourself. And I think if that was a bit more the American tradition, then we would probably have bigger sponsors on board, and the US sailing team would have a name title sponsor giving a ton of money if we then thought we'd get a ton of eyeballs. But yeah, we need a good fundraiser in place, and I'm not trying to ask for any job there, obviously, but someone who's able to kind of sell the title of that team to be able to then support the athletes in a way that they're not being supported now. And it is really unfortunate, but it's just the end of it. There's so many other sports that people are watching. Yeah. There's NFL, NBA, college football even, that have the majority of the eyeballs, and so much of the sponsorship money goes to those athletes and to that media, and the Olympic sailing coverage is non-existent in the country.
So what you're actually saying, and I guess it comes down to it, is it's all about the advertising dollar. That's all it is. It's about trying to. I mean, we all understand that it's about return on your investment and all that sort of stuff. But Australia, New Zealand, and all of those countries, we work on a principle of getting people on the water as much as possible. It just seems that it's a little bit backward in that it's just all about return on investment.
Well, one thing I'll also say to that is yachting is always viewed as a rich man's sport, so it's always going to be hard to bring in the corporate dollar, especially in a country like the US where everywhere you look, or any yachting event is a prestigious event, and all the yacht clubs are very prestigious.
Yeah, okay.
And it's not like a battlers type play and people trying to get people behind it. I don't know.
So what you're saying is you think they can just go out and do it?
No.
That's what's not going to happen.
Yeah. The other thing to understand,
the corporate money.
the number of registered sailors. So the US is nearly 300 million population. The Aussies 22, 24 million. We've got more registered sailors in Australia than they do in the US. So
wow,
that's an
incredible stat.
Yeah, so that's part of their challenge. Pagey was up against it the whole time, and Pete, I don't know, was it Pete, Jen? I don't know. Didn't know him at all. So
Greg Fisher, yeah.
It's a tough guy. You just got to build participation. When we had Alistair Murray on, he was just saying, we got to focus on the top, but he firmly believes you've got to drive the base. You've got to have lots and lots and lots of people coming in at the base. Build the pyramid from the bottom.
You'll be proud of me, Jordan. Tomorrow I head off to Royal Sydney Yacht Squad, and I'm teaching me be involved with the tackers too.
Good
there you go.
Get the kids out there. Good on you. Go on, Jen.
No, I mean, like the flying ant. I still want to come down and still flying ant, but I do think the U.S. is doing a good job with their they call it USDP, U.S. Development Program. We've got a number of Youth Worlds titles now and junior titles that we are seeding through, but that change takes time. Those kids are not yet Olympic standard and Olympic caliber or age, so that'll be kind of another 10 years down the line shift that we might see, where the money and the resources has gone to pay a bit more attention there. Because otherwise, even there, we weren't that supported. We didn't really have we had an amazing kind of national opti team, and then it falls off the map after that. And And reality, I think our system's a bit broken. We have such a huge focus on college sailing. I mean, myself in particular, I knew I wanted to go towards the 2008 Olympics, but I basically told Stanford I was going to go to school there and then changed my mind and went to Harvard because they had the best college sailing team, not because of the university or because I wanted to spend miserable winters in the cold and the snow, but because they were winning and they were making the college sailors a year and their team was winning the FAL trophy every year. And in reality, that meant I was racing every single weekend in college sailing boats on 10-minute race courses with boats that you can't do any technical changing to. The boats, literally, you can't touch the shrouds. There's no spinnakers. There's no trapezes. And you do this I did it for 3 years because I graduated in 3, but it was essentially 3 years that I was not Olympic sailing and I was not. You're getting much better at starts and at boat handling, but you're kind of losing everything else that goes into Olympic campaign. And I am proud of being a college sailor of the year, but we spend so much of our prime years from 17 to 21 or 18 to 22 focusing on this one thing that is just our country, that I think that's where our systems may be a little broken. And huge apologies to all the college coaches out there, because I loved it when I was doing it. I loved it, but I think hindsight is 2020, and probably I would say, go to a West Coast school, do a bit of college sailing, get better at starts and mark roundings, but make sure to be sailing the 470s on the other weekends or the 49ers on the other weekends, because it's pretty incomparable.
I'm sorry, Jen. When Jordan first introduced you, saying that you're the professional, hardworking and talented, when you were talking about Stanford and Harvard and all that sort of stuff, BP and I just had a little chuckle. Year 11 was good enough for me. Year 12 and then off to West Lakes Aquatic Centre for us.
Wow, fair game. But you're much better at
Jordan's a bit more established than us.
Yeah, he gets to wear blazers with his rugby union mates.
Oh, for God's sake. Oh, dear. Right. We're completely distracted now. Jim was doing good information and you two idiots.
Good. That's how we should be.
Yeah. And I think there could be an element of the fact that, the youth classes, once you get out of the opties, once you size out of an opti, go into a youth class, they're not that, you haven't got, and the Olympic classes, you've got to be a bit of a miniature human being these days. They're not that big of human beings, so maybe, with your American diets, you might be a bit.
Our Big Macs and our huge plate portions. I mean, it's true. I think it is. Well, they're going to put the keelboat back in with the offshore racing, but it is a bit unfortunate to have lost all the.
There's a change coming in body weights.
Probably, yeah.
Actually, it's
hard to get back to the size of the Star, though.
No, that's right. Yeah, the size of the Star, like those. Yeah, the big Star crews are not around. We're never going to see that again. But I'm going to say, isn't the first offshore world champ, the double-handed world champs, is part of the Middle Sea race? So that'll be in October. That can't be too far away. So that will be the first sign. They're doing those in L30s or something, I think. So, yeah. So we'll get our first.
I'm at the Annapolis Boat Show. I think one of the American guys going over asked me to be able to do it with him, and I would have absolutely loved to. I think it's going to be a cool display of what it's like, and good for those teams to just all start to know each other as well.
Yeah. Very interesting. I had one other question I forgot to ask you before. If seeing you with your BorrowaBoat thing, what boat, like we talk occasionally about how we'd run off on a sort of cruising boat. What boat would you borrow? What's the boat that you want to borrow on your list?
Oof. Well, I mean, I know the prices of some of these super yachts. I could throw a pretty good party on board one of those. Or I'd say, though, honestly, I'm so excited about the World Yacht Rally. Once you have a boat there on the platform that's, say, in the kind of the Fiji, Tonga region of the world, that would be my dream. I mean, I did the LA to Tahiti race 2008 on Ragtime just before we did the Sydney Hobart on that boat, and we got there in 14. So this whole thing was almost a disaster, but it wasn't. But our navigator quit a week before. He was having back problems and quit. And the owner kind of went, well, I think between you and I, we can get ourselves there. So we did. And we crushed the race. We took ourselves south through the doldrums with the rest of the fleet, staying north a bit longer and going for another weather window. And what we thought would be a 21-day race was we were at the dock in 14 days and only like 2 days behind the really big fast boats, and we're on a 45-year-old wooden boat built in New Zealand. And the ragtime. Yeah. But then it was nice because then we got an extra week in Tahiti to hang out and go diving and watch some of the surfing at Chihupo was going off as well. So I'd love to spend a bit more time back around there. Yeah.
Don't forget
any boat there.
Jen, don't forget, it doesn't have to be the Pacific. Remember, we're going through the Indian Ocean as well. So you've got the Cocos Keeling Islands, the Seychelles, Mauritius, the Reunion Islands. It's all just, the water there is just incredible. A little bit sharky, but incredibly beautiful.
A little bit sharky. San Francisco's sharky. It doesn't bother me.
Good. Yeah, well, then we're sorted. All right. I wouldn't mind moving on to some discussion points, boys. You happy with that?
I'm happy to move on, but one last real important thing, Jen specific, is have you guys heard of s'mores before?
Oh, s'mores.
Oh, my God. So
s'mores.
I was lucky enough to be introduced to the s'more by Jen at Jack Lloyd's barbecue once in Alicante.
Oh, is that what happened?
So like a cookie, got some chocolate, marshmallow.
Remember we were in that Japanese restaurant in...
Yeah, exactly.
Where the hell was that?
So
in
now
Florida.
They just keep bloody popping up everywhere. It's amazing.
I love how you say it too, Bicey. S'more.
I was a bit unsure of the spelling.
Came in. It's
s'more.
It's an apostrophe for I want some more. So it's S''MORE.
Yeah, apostrophe to me is a CH. It's year 11.
That's where that came from. Got it. You want s'more. No, s'mores are actually the best thing in the world, and you're right. You can see them everywhere in America. I mean, I think Starbucks comes out with like a s'more frappuccino in the summer times. I haven't been living in the U.S. in about the last 5 years, but they've really gone wild and crazy, like Chips Ahoy s'more versions in the supermarkets and stuff. But the rest of the world hasn't really caught on to that's the thing. You toast the marshmallow, you put the graham cracker out, you let the chocolate melt a little bit on top of the graham cracker while you're toasting the marshmallow, and then you just put it all together in a delicious sandwich. And you're probably going to have to Google it because that's really hard to visualize if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Have you had one, BP?
Apostrophe more.
Yeah. Have you ever had one, BP?
No, mate. I have to say no.
Yeah, it was an awakening. It was an awakening, I tell you. I was happy. I'm not much for the sweet stuff, though, but it was...
fuck.
I mean, the hard part is in the UK, they don't even sell graham crackers. I have had to go before and buy chocolate digestives. It is the most depressing thing. So I'm like, this is not what I want. But yeah, no, fair game. They don't really exist everywhere, but if you get your eye on one, BP, go for it.
Well, I'll be working on that one then. No worries.
Okay, first of our discussion points, team. Just sitting back thinking about how long ago it was we were sailing in the Old America's Cup class monohulls. It wasn't that long ago, and I'm just thinking, looking at what the boats that are popping out, what will we be sailing in 3 editions' time of the America's Cup? What are we going to be seeing? Any clues?
Paul Larson's going to be the head of the campaign.
Yeah.
It's going to be something. It has to be something along those lines.
You reckon?
Well, almost flying, as in, whilst we're foiling, but flying like Paul explained in whatever episode we hit, episode 3 or 4. That's the next step in my eyes.
I'm with Bicey. I think honestly it will go that way. It'll go the way of like kind of a covered, enclosed, one-person speed rocket, actual Formula One on the water type. Less about the teamwork and the maneuvering, more about just the grunt of the machine and whoever's driving it or helming it. But I don't know if that's the case. I think it could be cool. It could really look like. I mean, it's already cool. These boats are insane. The ones that they've just launched. But it's just going to keep going more and more and more extreme.
Yep. Anything from you, BP? You got any views? Because I'm in disagreement.
I'm just sitting here thinking about Star Wars, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just thinking about Anakin and what's his name? Luke driving around in his little thing that was floating above air, and I'm just thinking about that. That's where we're going.
Well,
Star Wars. It's the way forward.
it's amazing. So, first off, I reckon one thing that will be is there'll be a completely encompassing rule around sustainability. Those boats, everything will be completely recycled from start to finish. Yep. That kid even agrees with me in the background, so that's good.
CC. CC.
I reckon they'll be almost auto-falling, and I agree with the sort of ground effect element where they will be basically flying boats. But I reckon they'll be smaller because so we'll get more intense match racing. Well, that's what I'm hoping, because I love the match racing element, the dial-up. So I like the intensity of slow boat match racing, and I reckon they're going to try and bring that back in a bit more.
It's an interesting topic because as there's a bunch of traditionalists, there's a bunch of technologists, the different scopes or different ideals that are happening. And I think the Cup, for me, still sits in that position of absolute technology. It's an avenue to explore the absolute optimum of technology, and that's what the Cup should always be, and I think that's what it will always be. And I think that the traditionalist side of sailing will find another home, and I think we're still moving forward to what we were just talking about. That's my opinion.
Yeah, they'll be groover-looking things, I'm sure of that. But I just sort of got this vision of a Formula One car instead of wheels with wings just into the water, and then that's kind of how I'm seeing it. But fully sustainable. We had that. You were in that. We had that sustainable discussion last week, and we're close. And in 3 generations of the America's Cup, everything will be away from carbon and onto sort of bio fibres. Yep. Cool. All right.
Fair enough. Flying rocket ships. Okay, but on that, match racing. What about SailGP's last the match race last weekend? The Ginga Showdown.
The Ginga Showdown. Jeez. Did you? I haven't seen Nathan for a year. Have you guys seen him lately?
Oh, come on. He still counts as a Ginga. Is that where you're going with this?
Yeah, it's exactly where I was going. I love the guy, but wow, he's I just shave it off, Nate. You're a good-looking bloke. Shave it off, mate. That's go the condom mold shape. That was but it wasn't the. I don't know. There was a big mistake in that from the match racing perspective. So that it wasn't the luff at the end. So when Team Japan,
he made 2 mistakes before that. Yeah,
exactly. And the critical mistake was so Japan goes around the left top mark, and then Australian team's heading across right to the right top mark. All Japan had to do was come around, build speed, roll across into a jibe, and stay forward and in the pressure that the Australian team was, and stay in front of them. That was the mistake, not jibing and coming across to the Aussie side of the course. That's my view.
Yeah.
Jen?
Yeah. Okay. I totally agree. They needed to defend on the right side of the course earlier. And then secondarily, once they hadn't defended, understood the left side was paying for a lot of the regatta, maybe even on that first downwind. So he's thinking, right, we're just going to extend more. But when they didn't, and then they were losing ground to Tommy, then we call it the power position where you jibe to leeward and in front of the boat behind you because you're still in front of them. And they just kind of went an extra, probably half a second too long. And instead of being to leeward and in front, they kind of jibed to leeward and not quite in front and gave the Aussies the ability to roll. And then once they're rolling, the luff, at that point, the game's over anyway. He'd made those 2 big, the Japanese team had made the 2 big errors of not protecting and then of just not quite placing that jibe perfectly. And by the time we're talking about luffing, they've already lost the match. So I think it really does go to show it was still proper match racing. And those are just little techniques that probably Tommy might not have messed up because he's done just that bit more match racing with Oracle throughout the last 8 years.
Different perspective of it.
Yeah. And the hard part is it's match racing at Mach 10. So the decision making and the critical placement of the boats. Like I can talk about that power position because on an Elliott 6 meter, it's pretty easy to plant a power position drive because, it's an Elliott 6 meter. It's not going that fast. But for them to be able to nail that and execute and do so with foils at pace and speed and it's hard. And then I think the nerves and the heart rate and everything all combine at once with the fact that you've just lost all this distance on your opponent. Yeah. No surprise that there was a tiny error there, but I think as well, you got to say the Aussies were just nipping at their heels the whole race. They'd made that unforced error in the penalty, so that goes to show that Tommy probably had some nerves running high too, and that team in general.
Yeah.
But they were just so fast all the time. They were constantly able to come through the fleet all season and there as well. So it's not a surprise that they were then coming back on the Japanese boat the whole race.
Very interesting. It was good to watch, though, wasn't it? It was exciting. It's a great addition to our sport.
That luffing moment with it on the kits getting played. It was pretty incredible. Like you're talking about microseconds, before catastrophe. It definitely adds to it.
But I mean, that's what I guess I was arguing before, BP, with the America's Cup, like in the starts, those sort of little hooks and dial-ups and that sort of stuff. I'm wondering if we're going to get that in the new class of America's Cup boat. Be very intrigued. But that's the sort of stuff that you miss. Like Jen will be all over this. She did sailing the Elliott Sixes. Just trying to get that hook, deciding when to go back to the line, whether to lead, whether to push. Where you want to position, where you are on that part of the line, all that sort of stuff. Is just that's the intensity of match racing. That's where it really comes.
It's something I was thinking about. Yeah, it was something I was thinking about actually. It comes down to the boats, the boat that actually works better in a non-falling mode, and that's going to be the interesting side of it. If a boat can control another boat in a non-falling mode, depending on how they're doing it, that's the other side of it. What happens when they do actually have the ability to control the other boat and how quick they can get up onto the foils. I mean, that's a whole new aspect of this particular event that's going to come into play. I'm going to lock you out and hold you here, and then all of a sudden I'm going to go. That's the interesting one.
Yep. The other thing to take into account for this edition of the America's Cup, in the last edition you could update your foils and change on a overnight, but you have to elect what foils you're going to use 15 days out. You can't. So 15 days out, you can't change. So you've got to make your election 15 days out. So you're going to have to go for a more all-round setup. So that's going to be critical. There's going to be a lot of that. So the boats will get lower speeds, but they'll be better all-round sailing boats with the same equipment. So that's going to be quite interesting on how that's going to work out. Speaking of America's Cup, Jen, do you remember where you were on the 26th of September 1983? Because we all do.
Oh, I think I was half of a person inside each of my parents' bodies at that point in time.
I was wondering.
That's a good way of describing it.
Back in Baghdad.
So you,
Baghdad.
You officially hadn't met yourself at that stage.
Yeah, exactly. My ex hadn't met my wife. That's pretty funny.
So when
I was born in '84, so I missed the '83 one. Yeah.
Right. So, how did you feel when Australia 2 won the America's Cup?
pretty split in two.
That's why you came out.
I think probably realistically, my dad's side would have been happy. So his dad's Australian. My dad was born and raised in Africa, but had he been watching, and I'm sure he was, because he's a huge sailing fan and a big racing sailor himself, he would have liked to have actually seen the. He lives in the U.S. now. Both my parents do, but he would have liked to have seen the Aussies take the cup down under at that point.
Yep.
Where were you boys?
I've been thinking about this, and it's pretty clear I was obviously an early drinker because I have absolutely no recollection.
You would have been 6 or 7, wouldn't you?
What year were you born? What year were you born, Boise?
Would have just been. I'm 78, so 5 years old. The old man would have been in the yacht club or somewhere for sure. So I would have been tucked up at home. I certainly remember 87 a couple of years ago. But 83, nah.
There's an American kid in the background we're talking about the 83 Cup.
They just can't let go, can they? Where were you, Jordan?
Well, so I'll never forget it because I was in my second last year of high school. That's how old I am. And what happened? So It was my brother's birthday, so never forget the date. And then, so we all rolled up to school, and I'm the only kid in school, like this whole freaking school, who has any clue about sailing, right? Like I've been listening and watching, getting up at 3 a.m. to watch all the racing. And we get to school, and the place is going... It was going nuts.
You were planning a round-the-world trip. You were planning a round-the-world trip too then at stage.
Yeah, that's right. I was a bit earlier than that, actually. But... so the whole school's gone nuts, and everyone skives off to the local water hole, not watering hole, but water hole. And, I reckon that was my first day on the grog in the history of my life. Like, everyone stopped. I reckon the teachers were there, the students were there. It was just insane. People went nuts.
What, were you on the Swan Lager or Southwark Bitter?
Well, I was in Canberra in those days, so I had no clue what it would be.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, right next to our old mate Bobby Hawke, who said if any employer doesn't give you a day off, the next day is an idiot, right? Our Prime Minister said that.
A bum. Yeah. He said the word, "You're a bum."
Bum. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was only 10, so I was sort of in between both of you, I guess, at this stage. I was up in Modbury Heights. I was up in suburbia. But I remember it because. For some strange, I hadn't done a lot of sailing at that stage. I was 10 years old, so I was like still sort of in inland. And the old man came home and put on the mantle a model of Australia 2. And I'm going, oh, what's that thing do? And I'm looking at it. It was one of those original remote control ones.
Oh, and
I just looked at it, and you remember the one?
Yeah.
And I just thought, how cool's that? I like this. And I was looking at it, and then just for some reason I saw the Australia 2 on the TV. So that's how that all started.
Well, speaking of that, I noticed, I think Bouwe, Jen, you'll know this bloke, Bouwe Bekking, joined on our Facebook page this week. And straight away, the mongrel rolls in with the controversial point, talking about how Australia 2 is a good Dutch design.
Well, I tell you, having spent some time in Holland, and every time you announce to anyone that you're a yachty, and if they're in the marine industry, they almost expecting a handout. Well, that's a grand Dutch design, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Designed in our tank, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Turn it up.
Go back.
Wooden shoes, wooden head, wouldn't fucking listen.
I think Bauer loves to stir the pot, though, period.
Just a bit. I mean, Bicey, you and I have worked for Bauer. We've already talked about it, haven't we? He's always your boss once he's your boss.
Oh, yeah. No. I saw him 2 weeks ago, and he's starts bossing me around again.
Bless him. Good man, Bauer.
All we did was borrow your bloody pool, Bauer. That's it.
No, actually, how good's that, though, getting Bauer on board, which Bauer would be a great man to get on. And Jen, did you interview him at all during the Volvo?
Yeah, I mean, we called all the teams, so whenever we needed to hear from Brunel at that point in time, it was usually either Bauer or KP that we talked to on the boat. KP doesn't like to say so many words. So, yeah.
I got a bit of trivia. I got a bit of trivia for you. Bouwe Bekking came to my wedding.
Oh, he's a nice man.
There you go.
He's good for a
Was he crashing or was he invited?
he asked the bride out.
The only I had to get a day off somehow.
Had to invite the boss.
Had to invite the entire team.
Yeah. He's a good man. Slingsby's on. Everyone's on, actually. I mean, it's pretty cool. We're going all right. What about the next America's Cup boats? Jen, you're in Italy at the moment. I'm assuming you're in the loop. Have you seen Luna Rossa, or the Luna Rossa team called you to tell you what's happening?
Called to tell me to come cover their launch. So I was there in New Zealand. My very first kind of social media producing role was getting sent from the America's Cup to New Zealand super last minute to cover the 33rd when they launched their mirror. That boat was beautiful, but wow, was it hard to look at that mainsail if you're a mainsail trimmer. And I just hired Bo Outridge at the time. He was making all those funny. You remember those funny
Yeah.
videos they were putting on Sailing Anarchy that were just like kind of
Yeah.
joke videos? But yeah, we had him fly across, and that was his kind of first foray into actually dealing with the cup. But I did not get the invite to this launch. I hear it's in 3 days, October 2nd. We should see
Correct.
whatever the unveiling is of this boat. I'm pretty excited about it. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish I could be there eating the whales of Parmesan cheese that I remember they had in New Zealand because it was spectacular. But I know they do have a good party, and we all know they make a beautiful boat. So it's gonna be cool to see what the design looks like, though. What do you guys think? What do you think is in the bag?
Yeah.
No, I reckon that it's more of a red carpet event, and we should be covering the fashion. To tell you the honest truth, I think the first boats that come out will be doesn't really matter because it's all about the second boat anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's going to be some fine dressed ladies and gentlemen at that show.
Yeah. Well, they've been put the stickers on, so I mean, did we could just ring Somerville? He'll tell us what because it was built at Persico Marine, so Somerville could tell us.
Get him on.
He's a Kiwi,
Well,
so he'll be happy to reveal everything.
Or we could just wait 3 days and have a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Good point. Well,
Hey,
okay.
that kid in the background is still squealing. Maybe he knows something.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think they just took him away, luckily.
well, Jen,
Oh,
you live in the UK, so Ineos Team UK would have told you what's going on with their boat as well. No? Have you got some insight on that one?
That is a really good question. I have not seen a single Ineos
Gone quiet.
guy in a long
Interesting,
time.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no idea. It's
I
interesting.
had, well, it's not really a secret pro, but had dinner with a few blokes the other night during Southampton Boat Show. So that would have been a bit more than a week ago, and they're saying they're launching in 2 weeks. So she's
go.
not far out of the stable, I tell you.
Yeah.
It's going to be close.
Completely different philosophy, eh? We'll just sneak her out, put her in, we'll go for a few sails, and then we'll do it.
Yeah. Which of the two in the water at the moment, Jen? Which do you like? Which of the two, like the New Zealand one or the American one? Which jumps out at you at the moment?
I mean, I think kind of more in terms of the entire overall program, it's going to be hard to vote against the Aussies right now. The Kiwis right now. I just think they're sailing on their home waters. They kind of wrote the rules.
That's it.
They know how far to throw the ball and chase it with design, and they've also got some exceptional talent on board. I mean, everyone on that boat is good. So I think reality is, it's going to be about the second boat anyway, and regardless, I think they're going to be a team that is really, really hard to beat. And I think, unfortunately for my U.S. friends, I think maybe the boat that might be closest to beating them is BIR in some respects, because they've just got such an unlimited budget and some fire and some really good sailors there. And I think the Americans, in general, the campaign is, I'm sure, well-funded and well-resourced, but I just feel like it's a brand new campaign and new people coming together, and that's always really hard, and probably will put them on the back foot from the get-go.
So, New
Yeah,
Zealand.
I think it's just all up in the air still. I mean, you look at the boats; they're looking different on the water. There's different sort of performance parameters. You're looking at things like the weight coming off from the foils. You're looking at all sorts of things to try and get a better idea. And I just think at this stage, it's when they rack up together. That's the key,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
When is that happening, actually?
What?
Do we know?
What?
Is there any confirmation of these pre-events yet, or that's still up in the air?
No, I don't know, actually.
So I read it was still delayed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Bit like. Sorry.
All right. Okay, well, let's move on because we don't know the answer. So, and in the mini transit world, which gets BP really excited, nothing
I
happened.
was just about to say, bit delayed, bit like the mini transit I was going to say, but I'm not actually in charge of this show. You are. So I was waiting for you to lead in. But a bit delayed, the America's Cup stuff, a bit like the mini transit still. So here we go. We're 2 weeks late.
Hey,
so
I've
the
got a
record was
question.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Why the hell do you start it like in the
Bay of
deep,
Biscay.
in the dark depths of the Bay of Biscay?
It's a good
Like,
question.
seriously.
I tell you what, it's a French thing. It is a French thing, and they are so parochial, or it's so in-house. It's insane. And in 2013 they moved us 300 mile further north and moved it a month later. and then it was delayed another month. So we started nearly in November, in the winter.
No, take your Christmas ham.
Yeah. Have you ever sailed one, Jen? A mini transit?
No,
Mini
I
650s?
haven't. I'd love to, but I haven't.
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh, I can help you out there, Jen.
Yeah,
We'll be right. We'll sort you out.
He's the man.
Nice. Yeah.
By the way,
Fly there now and still make it.
the weather still looks shit house for a while.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, well, I was just I just was on the website. I was just going here, and I was just having a quick look. And Dennis Hughes, who I know very, very well, he's saying they're still not looking to get anywhere for the next week or so. They're expecting 30 knot winds, gusting to 40 knots, waves 3 to 4 meters in the Bay of Biscay. It's very complicated to set off before Wednesday is the key. That's the key word.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on it. We touched on it last week with Pip Hare. It's not about the fact that you can start a race. They've got to get around the corner.
Yeah.
And it's the entire fleet. You know, that you've got to remember that some boats are so slow, and there are some sailors there that are purely there to get it to do the race. They're not racing sailors. Yeah, that's what I thought.
All right, so they're not going anywhere. They're cool boats. We can't wait to see them go and fly downhill with all their sail up and just bouncing off those swells. So we're looking forward to that. What about travel stories? Did we have some travel stories? Like that was one of our notes on the run sheet. Was that from you, boss? No.
Well, I put it on the run sheet just due to the fact that there's a lot, well, especially us two and Jen spends a lot of time
Hang on. Tell her to shut up, will you?
That's not Jen.
It can't be that many flights. Hey, I'm going to mute,
Jen.
actually, for now.
No, you're right. Don't mute. Stay with us. But can you just walk over to her and tell her you're doing Baccarati?
Can you stop that? We're using our hands to talk about sailing.
Oh, you're completely on board, Jen.
Totally.
Anything happens in Baccarati, doesn't it? Anything. So sorry, bossy. On you go.
No, it's just given the amount of travel that is going on, that Jordan, spending quite a bit of time in Asia now, and we kind of see it all. So there's, at some point in time, there are some pretty funny things, some super frustrating things, and some things that you just got to roll with it.
You had any weird stories, Jen? Anything happened to you that sort of just blown your mind whilst on the travel?
Oh, that's a great question. In general, no. I mean, I think probably my worst travel stories are from the LA to Tahiti race where we blew up just about everything on board the boat, including the engine. But my actual own personal travel are just mistakes. Like I once was flying back from the Busan Match Cup, and flew through China, and my phone didn't. Normally a phone, when you switch cities, the phone will switch its own time zone, and it didn't switch time zones, and I was well early for a flight and missed the flight because I thought it was an hour earlier than it was. So that was a tough one, actually, literally being stuck in China going, right, okay, now I have to buy a new flight, and that was expensive as well. But just own goal.
It sounds like my recurring dream, being stuck in Japan. It's like non-stop. For some reason, I never make it to the airport.
You got to have the manual watch. You can't trust your phone, your computer, anything, like when you travel through the different time zones.
Yeah, that's really true. Oh man, I had another one too on flying back from Rio. I had to fly through airport in the central of Brazil, and the airport was like covered, but all outdoors. There were no windows, and I had a 7-hour layover, and there were so many mosquitoes, and I just there was it's the worst. There was nowhere to buy mosquito spray. There was nowhere to go inside because it was just all this kind of outdoor complex. And I got on a plane for like a 12-hour flight with about 50 mosquito bites, just going, man, that was brutal. That's probably my worst ever. That was really brutal.
Not fun.
Travel.
Does my head.
No, but you learn a few little tips here and there, and then there's a lot of stories that you just can't tell over the airwaves.
But people got to be more like to travel thing. Like you got to have it worked out. Like you don't get to the the security aisle and then decide you've got to take off all your chains and pull your phones out of your pockets and then unlace these gigantic shoes. Like, for me, I come through the line, I've got nothing in my pockets. It's all in my bag.
Yep.
I've got my laptop in my hand and I've got
No belt.
No belt, absolutely.
No belt.
And my thongs on. I walk up to the thing, I drop my laptop, my bag, and just walk straight through. And if they go, shoes, you just flip your shoes off and throw them in, and you're through in 10 seconds. Whereas other punters, oh man, I just want to thump.
Here we go. This is the Ginga Rage coming out.
Oh,
Jen.
yeah. I've got a travel story of Ginga Rage. I'll give you one.
Here we go.
I had to fly back from Asia on Qantas the other day, and one of the problems with Qantas, so it's got a great safety record, but it's chock-a-block full of bogans. And I hate Qantas. We're not getting any sponsorship money out of Qantas, I can tell you that right now. I hate the mongrels. Anyway, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm sound asleep. I'm curled up under my little blanket. And the bloke behind me, the guy kept getting up and banging my seat. And it was a bit harder banging than I thought. I'm going, this guy's a bit dark on me or something. And he's obviously upset that I got my seat reclined, like at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to sleep. And then it happened a couple of times. And then next thing you know, he's just kicking the crap out of the back of my chair, right? And I just lost it. Like, I just stood up and I ripped into him. And I used some pretty colourful language. And I'm probably, most times when I hop on a plane, I'm the biggest guy on the plane. And he hadn't allowed for that in his trying to be tough with the back of my seat. Well, I've never seen a bloke wet himself so quickly in my life. He just was begging for mercy. It was hilarious. I was very angry. Full Ginga Rage.
Love it.
Yeah.
Bring it out more often, Jay. Bring it out more often.
Looking forward to sailing with you, Jordan. Looking forward to it.
I'm very calm. If you listen to me, then there's no problems.
Well, if you listen to me, hey, work as a team and do it my way, mate.
Yeah, that's
You'll be
right. That's right. All right, okay. Well, speaking of your way, BP, you took your ex out for a sail. Your first race yesterday. Today.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yesterday.
She's lovely. Yeah, yesterday.
So, Jen, just for you, BP's got a... Describe your boat. So what's special about your boat, BP?
Well, it's all to do with the with what's going on in the aerofoil world. It's a double twin membrane sail. So basically, we're playing around with and have been playing around with semi-rigid wings for the best part of 5 years. And go on.
Who came up with the term semi-rigid?
Yeah.
How do you refer to a standard sail? Dead set flaccid.
A flaccid sail.
No, it's not quite full wood.
Jen, I apologise for the fact that we're so childish.
SRW semi-rigid wing. Yeah, wing to it. It doesn't make it so conspicuous. So anyway, we went out sailing, and it was fantastic. Had a couple of good lads on the boat. The boat itself is a little 26-foot sports boat, but it's all in conjunction and got to do with this new, pushing the new aero dyed technology. So that's where we're at with it. And went for a sail, and just look. It's just one of those things. It's going to take a little while to get sorted. A bit of R&D time on the water. For everyone, it's new, and this is what we're doing with it. We're giving people the opportunity to experience what sailing with a wing is going to be, and that's the key to it at the moment. So
very cool.
And it freaks people out.
Yeah,
it freaks people out.
So I mean,
the semi-faucet part or
This is what the America's Cup boats are doing. So we're waiting for all the boats to be launched before we go into a full breakdown on how these wings, their rig structure's set up. So we'll do a full thing on that.
And I'm not going to bore you now with that, but I can tell you we did a lot of one-on-one, and we did a lot of sailing yesterday with boats, and then we lined up for our second race, and we're on the start line, and we come up to leeward of everyone, and we in a good position. We're probably the smallest boat in the fleet, and it was in the Super 30s, so we were racing in that sort of range, and off the start line, great start, and then we actually broke the rotation control line, which actually controls the rotation of the mast, and the boat went from literally fully powered up to it just lost 20 degrees and literally stopped. So that shows how much that wing is working. Wow. That was the end of our day, obviously. But it was quite astounding. And the boys on board were like, wow, what happened? I said, well, we just lost our rotation control. that's it, you know. And it was a 4 mil Dyneema line that broke.
Can you get one of the young lads just to hold it?
What's that?
Just hold the mast in rotation?
Yeah. Well, it was flowing 22 knots, so you had a bit on.
Which that we had a question, probably 6-7 weeks ago, basically asking of the evolvement of yachting in general. So you in a 26-footer, are you kind of keeping up with kind of the 35, 40 footers of 10, 15 years ago? Is that kind of the advancement or the evolvement?
Yeah, that is the speed difference, but it's the actual height that you're gaining and the stability and the ability to put the boat wherever you want to put it.
Yeah.
So, the sail, even though it's a semi-rigid, it doesn't flog. So it does not flog. You cannot flog it. Even yesterday in 22 knot gusts, it doesn't flog.
You're making it too easy, BP.
That's it.
Oh, mate. You're setting me up.
Yeah. And I'm watching you. You realise that, don't you?
You idiot. Righto. Well done. We'll talk more about it in a couple of weeks.
I've lost. He's gone.
Yeah, he's
I've got him.
Righto. Guys, we're going to run out of time pretty shortly because I think Jen's got about 10 minutes before she's got to get on a plane.
Yeah.
So new segments that we came up with a couple of new segment ideas. Something has to be said where people are just doing stuff that annoys you. We'll put that up on the... Boss, he's still lost it. He's just giggling.
You can laugh into the microphone. It makes it funnier.
So we'll worry about that one next week. But random thoughts. I have to talk about this one because it's topical. After looking at the breakfast bar in Italy last week, which included 5 different types of cakes and torts, I just want to know, why stop at just chocolate cake and torts for breakfast? Can chocolate be a breakfast food now? Like, can you have chocolate as breakfast food?
I mean, pretty much. Don't they put Nutella on
Ever heard of Nutella?
It's hazelnut. Yeah, they do. It's hazelnut. That's Nutella is everywhere. All right, so we're good there. What about Bicey's suggestion? What's your suggestion, Bicey?
What do you? I'm moving straight to Bavaria. Beer.
You went ice cream is what I thought you were going to go.
No, I've had breakfast with you a few times. I just added that in.
Yeah. All right.
Is that not more German than Italian? Sorry, you're mixing the two.
Yeah.
Italian cakes.
Yeah,
beer for breakfast.
That's it, beer for breakfast. So, I don't know. We're just trying to discuss, like, what is legally, what can you have? It was just a random thought. I don't know. What's the worst thing you've had to eat on a boat, though? That's where I was leading to. I was just trying to go a long way around to asking the question, what's the worst thing you've had to eat on a boat?
Okay, we had a rule. This is so bad. We had a rule on the Tahiti race that everything that landed on deck, we had to try.
Oh. Nah.
Good one. Yeah, I'm not kidding.
So if someone chucks up and they throw it up on deck.
No.
Your mind was where I was.
As landing. No, like we had flying fish. I feel like we just had really some random stuff that would come and we would try it and it was gross.
Did you
always?
Did you mung on a flying fish?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was the one who made the rule. I had to then stick to it.
Oh, you made the rule. God, I'm not sailing with
flying
you.
Fish pizza. Yummy.
It was tortillas with everything. I don't know why, but we had brought just so much cheese and actual like wrap meat, so we were having tortillas the whole way across the ocean. But no, we would just grill. Well, the grill isn't really the term. Pan fry, whatever it was. Like, I feel like we had a squid once, but I don't know how that would have landed on our deck. So I think that my memory bank has just gone a little fuzzy in the 10 years. But for sure, some flying fish of different sizes and varieties. And it was interesting. They were never good. They're quite bony. It's gross.
Yeah, I was just going to say, never going on a ship with you. Yuck. Stick that one. All right. You like it? We're pro. Transition music.
I always wonder. Yeah, your transition. I was always wondering if you put it in afterwards. You sometimes do the tweeting birds too, right? Those are good.
Oh yeah.
We don't, absolutely no editing, by the way.
Yeah, we don't edit.
Jen, we don't do anything afterwards.
It's just sticking up.
I can tell now. It's great.
It's just mix. I've got a little mixing desk I do everything with. Secret pro news. Any secret pro news?
Negative. Nothing this week.
Jen, come on.
Got anything? Has anything slid across the desk that most of the yachting world wouldn't have heard just yet without incriminating yourself?
Good question. No, not really. I mean, we've actually just spoken about most of the stuff that I can talk about. I can talk about out loud. The Olympic stuff and the 52s and even SailGp and the America's Cup. So nothing in particular that's secretive.
All right. Well, let's speed through this last bit. RSX Worlds just finished in Tobol on Lake Garda. Yunxi Lu from China won the gold, stepping up from her 2 bronzes for the last 2 years. So congratulations to her. And the old Dutchies in the men's, Kieran Badlow had the win, beating Dorian van Rijsberg, who has won the last 2 Olympic golds. So that's a big step up. They're a bit of stress now. They've got to do the early selection on the Dutch RSX team. Who are they going to pick? Who would you pick in that situation? That's going to be a tough one.
I'm all for.
Oh, no, just string it out. Leave it to the last couple of weeks for the games.
Now that we've heard how good early selection. I mean, I think the thing, Jordo, I don't know if you remember, but we had both of them on our rib at the ISAF Worlds because we did interviews with the teams that had won, and those 2 guys trained together and have like this beautiful sort of mentor-mentee relationship, and they seem like they got along so well there. So I think reality is they either one would be happy to see the other go, but you almost feel like if you're the selectors, you send the young guy, right? Because he's got more Olympics ahead of him after this one as well, and so you might as well give him a first and early shot and keep going. But that's maybe just sorry, Dorian. But that's maybe just me.
I think they're going to select who's going to win gold, but probably in the young youth in that event class is probably going to be the strongest. Another thing there, BP, for you, because you like a funny name, and with much respect to this person, Pierre Lecoq was 3rd in, which is, if you know your French, basically it's Peter the Chicken.
It's a chicken.
Peter the Rooster.
Peter the Chicken.
Which is the greatest name. I love it, Pete.
Love it.
So no disrespect. We're not implying any disrespect. In the Fast 41-ton Cup, did we touch on this last week? Ran had the win. Girls on film 2nd. Yep, good. We can move on. Round the grounds this week, a bunch of match racing events, the US, the New Zealand open match racing events, Oz Youth events. Melge 24 start just before we start recording next week, so that'll be on. About us, if you want to contact us, hashtag Barkarati on Instagram, on Facebook, just Barkarati, and on the website, barkarati.com. It is going off. It is going off. I think you were saying, Jen, at the TPs, you were chatting about Barkarati stuff, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. You've got a number of followers. I mean, I don't know where you're seeing your stats about the Canadians coming on board. You guys must have some Google Analytics in the background there, but for sure, some of the class that's listening.
Just making it up.
No.
Pulling it out of nowhere. Thin air.
Okay, so the quiz question from last week, Jen, see if you can answer this. Which European country has the most earthquakes?
Do you want me to actually answer? Because I feel like I know the answer.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Is it where I'm currently standing?
Hey.
Exactly.
Hey.
I hope not. I hope it's not where you're standing.
Well, I mean, it's true though. I feel like I've read about and heard about Italy having earthquakes in the past, and San Francisco, where I lived for a long time, has a number of them, obviously all around. So I got one of my best friends lives here. I always think of her when they happen. But was it because you didn't even know I was coming on last week. So fair enough. Italy for the win of the most. Well, I guess it's not something you really want to win.
We did it because Bossy and I were there last week. That was the only real reason. It was about us, not about you.
Yeah. I don't believe the country's actually been mentioned yet. So come on, where?
Italy.
Here you go.
Jen's in Milan right now. She's just released her latest fashion range, Milan fashion show. All right, so we're just before we sign off, the quiz question for this week. This is a good one. So, especially for you're Italian, so Pope Fabian was elected leader or Pope of the Catholic Church, and was the Pope from 236 to 250. Okay, so we're talking a long time ago.
Well, AD.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got it now.
Yeah, the
I know
church
exactly what
didn't
you're about to
exist.
say.
The Christian church didn't exist before Jesus, just in case you didn't know that. So what method did the Catholic Church use to decide his appointment? That's the question. All right, Pope Fabian, all right? You'll love it when you go and look it up. You'll love it. All right. Sounds boring now, but you'll have a good old chuckle.
Just chuckling.
Oh, dear. All right, Jen, I think I timed it to the second. I reckon you've got to go right about now. So big thanks from us. You were fantastic. We loved having you on the Bar Karate team. And best of luck with everything. We'll be talking to you a lot, I guess, with World Yacht Rally and BorrowaBoat.
Thanks so much, you guys. It was a pleasure. A good way to kill an hour or a bit in the airport here.
Yeah.
Proper giggle.
Nice to meet you, Jen. Nice to meet you.
You too, BP.
Thanks, Jen. Love your work. See you soon.
All right, everyone. See you later. See you next week.
So little time, I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna